Alright, hello and welcome back to my real-time strategy in Unity tutorial. Today we're going to be focusing on the economy of the AI. So basically what we want to we're aiming to achieve is that the AI will continually build workers, assign those workers to some kind of resource that it needs, say by working out how many workers are gathering each type of resource. It'll try and distribute them evenly, so it's getting at least some of every resource. And then when it has enough workers, it'll stop building them. And if it has, say, hit the population cap, it'll build a home, and that would allow it to expand, to build more workers, and eventually, next episode, we'll start doing soldiers and that. So yeah, I've just basically let the AI play itself up until this point. So at this point, it's got it's initialized everything, so it can build soldiers and workers, and now it's going through the phase of building workers, assigning them to a resource, and it loops basically. So let's just have a watch of that in motion. Sorry, I'll just maximize that. Pause, play. So as you can see here, they've got 9 workers, so more than the starting 5. And if you pay attention, this worker here, cursor, is building another home. And as soon as you see there, a worker just popped into existence, and in a moment he will be assigned to gather a resource. So if you just follow him, he's decided that gathering wood is the primary objective, and we've got another one. Let's see where he's assigned to. And he is going to gather stone, apparently. And you'll also see those ones that are just going to the storehouse. These are gathering iron. I believe some are gathering gold. This one's gathering food so we can keep producing. And this one is just about done with building that home. So in a minute we'll have higher population capacity. So we'll be able to build more food. So yeah. So let's go over the code of how this was done. Okay, there are a few bug fixes I wanted to address that I've come across while developing this bit of the AI. One was that sometimes the pathfinding goes a bit fucked, in that, say, if a unit was trying to move, not a long distance, it'd get a path that was ridiculously long, because for some reason the ASAR algorithm would be looping between 2 tiles for quite a while and then somehow breaking out of it. I'm not sure why that's occurring, but I'll try and fix it in the future. I think it's something to do with how the tiles are weighted in relation to their neighbours. So I'll update on that. But for now, I've got 2 fixes for it. The first is an abandoned thread timer. So this basically just counts from, limits the thread to having 5 seconds to get its path, or it'll abort. So that because it won't take that long to get most paths. So say if it was just moving from a resource to a storehouse, So that normally it should be fine, but in these rare instances where the path is being too long, then it will just call threadedpathfind.stop, which is a new method, which basically just calls mythread.abort, which stops the thread. And yeah, since we're done with that, we'll stop that. And then that will set threaded pathfind to null, and say, all right, we're waiting for the path. We're not waiting for the path anymore. We're just going to say, oh, I'm moving. And that will move it in a straight line towards its position, rather than just not doing anything. So that's the best fix I could come up with at the moment. And similarly, we will, on the move along path, we will check for if the path is either less than or equal to 1, so it hasn't found a path, which would be if the thread was abandoned, or if the path is more than 1,000 nodes longer, so that would suggest that the path is too long, it's gone wrong somewhere. So basically just saying, all right, we'll clear the current path if it's 1,000 or more nodes, and we'll just move in a straight line towards the direction. You might see that occasionally. I noticed there was one bit in the preview I showed where the worker that was building the house will just walk through the house, but it's not too bad, but I will try and fix the issue in the future, hopefully. So yeah, that was the pathfinding, and yeah, and I think there was one more thing, bug fix, that I can't remember, so I'll look at the documents for it in a second. Another thing that on this move along path method, there's its target position is initially set to 0, 0, and we'll basically try and set it to whatever the current node in the path is. So path counter.x and y. So it's basically getting the x and y of the node. On occasion, like I saw this once where it would fail and it would give you a null reference exception for some reason. So to combat that, like if it does throw that error, because I'm not sure what's causing it, it will instead use the final location.x and y, which is assigned here, which I think I already had, so don't need to go over that again. But yeah, that's just sort of like just to make sure it doesn't break or just stand still, you know. And also here, I don't know if this was the cause because it's also reset on when you call for a path. Well, I've added another path counter reset here. So this is when it's reached the end of the path. It will reset the path counter to 0, so it's not getting a null reference exception on the next pass round, I think. So that might have been the cause of it, but just to be safe, it's the new path counter equals 0 there. Okay, I've also added another little bug fix. It's not really... Yeah, sometimes you get an error, a null reference error, when getting resources, because if, say, like a farm was built in Forest, and it replacing the forest tiles with farm tiles, that might destroy trees on it, and then the resource would be in the list still, but not there. So, as a temporary fix, I've added if g equals null, then continue. So if the reference to the resource in the list is null, it'll just go on to the next iteration of the list without executing this code here to check if the resource is, within distance, whatever. Probably bad practice. I should probably remove that when it's destroyed, so I will do that at some point. I'll have to have a big bug fixing episode. But yeah, this is in all the get nearest resource methods you can see here. And I've also just moved this if statement up into the if distance is less than nearest distance. I think it was causing a bug. I can't for the life of me remember, but yeah, so it's basically just been moved from here's where it was originally, and now it's here. Just so we don't need to exit that if statement if we're within the acceptable distance. But yeah. Oh, what was the last one? Oh yes, for AI gather resources and AI build buildings, I basically added the this reset action, which will basically set all the booleans that denote the condition of the action. So if it's moving to the resource, gathering the resource, moving to start, whatever. This will now set them to false if do action has been called when the action started is equal to false. So say if it was well, basically the main case was if it was interrupted, the action, it wouldn't reset these booleans to false. So I'd think it was still at the storehouse but the unit could be in a different position. So that's just a quick fix I've made. So calls reset action, which basically just says make all these bools false, and it will then have to recalculate the path and whatnot to the resource and the storehouse from the new location where it would be. And a similar thing has been put in for do action, but we didn't have a separate method. We just said our building equals false, moving to building equals false if the action is not started, but do action has been called. And that has a similar effect where it'll have to recalculate its path and whatnot. Okay, so now we get on to the additions to like existing scripts and whatnot. So first off, we've added a faction identifier to the unit.ai unit store, so because that didn't have one for some reason, so now it does. Another thing we've added is I've changed up the way basically the method for getting free workers works. So first off, we will check if there is a temple within the faction. So if we don't have a temple, we'll just return the entire list of workers. So we're assuming that the AI is right at the start of the game when it's trying to set up all these buildings it needs. So it will do that. And then if it doesn't return null, so if there is a building, if the building isn't built, so you just get the script of building off the game object that's returned, it will also return the full list of workers. So it's saying that, all right, we don't have enough workers, we don't have the capacity to build workers yet, so we'll just use all of them and interrupt them. And otherwise, so if we have got a temple that's been built, we will try and find units that are not reserved and not actually doing anything at the moment, so free workers. And then we will add this to the list of workers we are going to return. However, we also have another condition which checks, so if we don't have any workers from that, from the free workers, basically, so if there aren't any free, we will try and look at all workers that do have a job currently, and we will try and grab the ones with the lowest numbers of jobs queued up. So we'll go through, do one iteration of the list and work out what the highest and lowest number of jobs are. And then we will go through the list again of workers. And if the worker is doing the lowest number of jobs, and the new list of workers that we've got is less than 3 in length, because we don't want to get all the workers that have the lowest number of jobs, because we might have, like, say, 50 that are all just gathering resources, and that'd be one thing, but we don't need all of them. So we'll just grab a couple that are doing this low amount of work, and we'll add this to the temp, and we will return that list. But otherwise, if we do find some workers that are free, we will return them instead. So yeah, I believe there was something else. I also added a method to work out workers building, which is used to basically work out how many numbers of workers are building a building instead of gathering resources. So this basically just goes through all the workers, checks the first element of the action queue, tries to parse it as an AI building, and if it can do that successfully, then it will increase the count of workers building a building. Otherwise, it won't do anything, and then it returns that count, and that's just used in the faction AI, but we'll get onto that in a minute. We've also altered the AI's decision gather resources and the decision to build a building to use the new method for getting free workers. So basically, we're saying if we can perform the gather resource action, we just use the my units. They'll get free workers to get a selection of free workers, basically, to do the action, and then we just assign it like normal. And I believe this is done slightly differently in the buildings, because we actually assign it in a different point. If I can find the script, because I can't read for some reason. AI building store, that's it. So on when we call add job to construction queue, which is basically, add job to construction queue, which basically is when we want to build a building, we'll call this. We're using myfaction.myunits.get free workers and myjobs.add, and we use that list in there. We pass it into the construction job store. And I think there was something else. Yes, on create next building, basically we use an interrupt. So once we need to build a building, we will interrupt whatever action the unit is currently doing. So if it was gathering resources until the building was to be created, then it would do. It'd just be interrupted, and then it can return to whatever. If it's been dragged off a resource, it will return to gathering that resource after it has constructed the building. Okay, another change I've made is to the existing sort of like initialization bit of the faction AI, so where it's trying to build a temple and a barracks, because that's like the two main components that the faction needs to play the game. So we have this new method, are we trying to build building? And that basically just says, it checks all the decisions to see if we're trying to build it. That is basically placed here, so we'll try not to build multiple buildings, but somehow it is, because I will fix that later. And also do we have building results? Basically, it works slightly differently in that it will look for the building, and if the building exists and has been fully built by a worker, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. And that is used, where is it used? I know it's used somewhere. In the Boolean, can we create workers and can we create soldiers? Just to make sure that we can actually do them. I think I'm still using them. Yeah, I am. Just second guess himself. We can also see that the workout workers building is done here. number of workers building, as you said, that little bit in the my units thing that I showed you, and the potential population limit has also been. I basically set the. What's it? Where is it? Potential population has been set to. What's the word? Sorry, I figured this out. Basically, I've assigned the potential population to be as a public integer, so it can be accessed like from outside the class, and we can see it in the inspector. And that is assigned every time get potential population is called. Basically, we use this to make check if we are at the population limit for a faction. This is used to decide later when we're deciding whether to build homes or workers or whatnot. So yeah, I've also removed all the debug code from threaded pathfinding and stuff, which I've closed, but whatever. Basically, that's just commenting out all the debug.log errors because I don't have categories for debugging for some reason, which I should probably look into. But whatever. Okay, I think that's all of it. And we just have one more thing that's completely escaped my mind from it. Oh yes, for unit masterclass, we basically check if basically it has no actions to do and the unit is still reserved, then the unit is now reserved as set to false, so it can be used by when we're looking for resources to gather when we've got unused workers. So yeah, so now we get onto the actual new bit of the AI, which is the deciding to gather resources, build homes, build more workers, stuff like that. So I'll just go over that. First off, we've got do we have enough workers? So basically that's the first check we do. Do we have enough workers? Where is that? Basically we check if the count of the workers is more than or equal to the population limit of the faction. That is going to be like less in the future, so I'm going to divide it by 2, so we have like a 50-50 split between workers and soldiers. But for now, it's just going to be the entire population limit. So if we have got workers, if we do have the same amount of workers as we do for the population limit, then we return true. Otherwise, we return false, saying we don't have enough workers. If we do have enough workers, we check if we're at the population limit, which is a method here. So, like I said before, we just check if the current population. Train? Sorry. So, if the current population of the faction is more than or equal to the potential population, and it's more than or equal to the population limit, we return true. Otherwise, we return false. And if that's returned true, we're saying, all right, we've got enough, we've filled up the population, but we're not building anything yet. So we're saying, all right, let's build a house. And otherwise, if we're not at the population limit, but we have enough workers, this would be, well, true when we start building soldiers, but whatever, we'll do nothing. Otherwise, so if we don't have enough workers, for whatever reason, so if we're at the population limit, so again, if we have filled up the population entirely, we'll say, all right, we need to build another house. Otherwise, so if we're not at the population limit, but we don't have enough workers, we just say, we need more workers, so we build another worker, or we add the decision to build another worker. And yeah. Okay, and finally, we got onto this make sure that we're gathering all resources script, which basically tries to distribute workers amongst all resources. So what it does is we have a string for the resource with the lowest and a number of lowest, and it basically goes through each resource and checks out the number of workers gathering food and compares that to the number of the lowest. And if it's less than the number of lowest, it will store it. So initially, it'll store food because you're not going to have 100,000 workers. The game will have crashed by then or something. We're not total war, but yeah. So the number of lowest will be gathering food, and if gathering wood is not lower than that, it will set it to gathering wood, and so on, so on. And by the time it's checked all the resources, it will then add the decision to go and gather more of that resource. So it will grab some workers, whether they be from another resource or just free ones that have been built. They will be sent to go and gather that resource. And this will like ensure that the workers, each resource has at least some gathering them. Yeah. And I also have another one, a similar one that just gets the resource with the most. So, yeah, it's basically just the inverse of that, except it returns the string rather than just adding the decision to gather resources. I was thinking of using that maybe with assigning workers, but, you know, it's just there if you want it. Yeah, I think that's it. Was there anything else I added? Yeah, that was it. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick demo of this. I will clear that and press play. So yeah, we spawned right next to one. So yeah, cheers for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. This AI will kick in a moment. It just takes like a few seconds to warm up. I think it's because of that coroutine. So yeah, you will see them start to build a home, well, not home, a storehouse, because that's the first thing that's built, because it's free. And all the factions start with 0 resources, so that'll be there. And this one's actually doing quite well, because it's got gold, iron, and stone near it. So yeah, cheers for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Go check out Loud or Quiet on itch.io. I've been adding new mission strand lately. What was it? It was like a sort of ram raid on a museum someone's due to steal some massive ass diamond. So, you know, that'll be fun if you're into that sort of shit. What else? Aside from that and this, I've not been doing much, actually. Summer's too hot for me. So yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to cut to the actual end of this, so I will see you in a bit. Alright, so as you can see, that we have reached the end of the sort of initialization phase of the AI. So it's got its temple, it's got its barracks to build soldiers, and now it's at the phase where it'll build workers, gather resources, build homes to get more workers, and it'll repeat doing that. So I will just watch it until it's finished with the building. Oh, it's building another house there. It's still building more workers, and apparently it's taken away from the players' food. So I will have to check that actually. Something's gone wrong there. Oh well, I will fix that next episode. So yeah, see how the economy works. This will just go on until like the end. End of time. There's no stopping condition. I might add a maximum population cap for that. That's probably needed actually to stop it sort of crash, just going till it crashes. But yeah. So yeah. Cheers for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. You know, I think I'm almost at 700 subscribers, so it'd be nice if I could get up to that. Like I said a bit before, go download Loud or Quiet. It's good. Promise me. Help me avoid being an adult and let me just create video games and stuff as a job in it. So yeah, next time we'll be doing army, so we can get the little AIs attacking each other. And what else? I'm also going to add a way to distinguish the AIs by adding some kind of colour to them, because apparently that's going to get confusing if I don't. So I will do that next time. And also, just as a little demo, that's not the only AI running in the scene. You can also see that there's one here, which is doing a similar process. So they got 2 temples this time instead, and a barracks and whatnot. And yeah, whereas there's 4 AIs in the scene. Oh yeah, they're just above, actually quite near to each other. They're up here. So as you can see, they're also doing the same. They've only got 1 temple and 1 barracks, and they're gathering resources. And again, these guys, they've got 2 temples and 2 barracks. Fucking luxury there. So yeah. So that is all, folks. Cheers for watching, and goodbye.